gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Political Smackdown. I'm Andy Devon, I'm your host this week, and we've got our usual bunch with us. Betsy's back off her sick bed and back with us again. Good to have you back, Betsy.
Glad to be back.
All right, let's just might as well start with you, Betsy. This is right up your alley. It seems Republicans can't seem to keep themselves from mischief. Every time they're in session, it seems like. Hidden in the latest hurricane relief bill is a change to taking the appointments of the State Board of Elections from the governor and giving it to all people of the state arbiter. Once again, it seems like the Republicans are just trying to take the governor's power when it happens to be a Democrat. Fancy that, ain't that something?
Fancy.
Take off on that, Betsy.
And you know, here they meet up, and it's after the election. We were very happy in the Democratic Party to win those Council of State seats. And tucked away in this bill called the disaster bill on page 132 is where they want to diminish the power of the governor. And instead of having the governor appoint the members of the election board, have it done by the auditor, because we have the first time in like 16 years a Republican auditor. No, and you know, here they've just added more. It's just a power grab. And we've had this awful disaster in western North Carolina, and you would think that they would think about that when they go back down to Raleigh for relief bill. And they did this while the governor is up in Washington going to Congress trying to get more money for North Carolina. And we could have had more money if they hadn't decided to put in like $463 million more into the voucher scholarships.
Betsy.
Wes. We know that's true, Wes. We know that money could have gone to public schools or to the disaster relief. But no, and they wanted to strip some powers from the lieutenant governor, from the attorney general, and even down to Mo Green, who's the superintendent of instruction. So what is it? Here, I think the Republican in this, and you know, Tim won. He's going to Congress. He could have left North Carolina without this blot on his record, and of course, with him and Berger. No, I'm not happy, Wes. I'm not happy with the fact that the money could have been spent for the people of North Carolina rather than just the very wealthy of North Carolina. And so, Andy, I'm sorry. Thank you for calling on me first, but I'm very sorry to have to talk about this today.
Well, it is kind of harsh. I mean, you think, Wes, with something as harsh as what Western North Carolina endured, that one time we could not play politics or something like this, and just had a clean bill. You even had, I believe it was 3 Republicans voted against it for this very reason.
And Andy, you were in Raleigh.
I was.
There's no such thing as a clean bill, as you're defining it.
But cleaner than this.
Listen, this is the same problem that we have in Washington. Executive authority or the will of the people. The Constitution says all political power is vested in and derived from the people, which means ultimately the General Assembly, which is the closest body of the people. While the separation of powers should be separate and distinct, nothing requires that it be equal.
Well, it's funny. They just waited till a Democrat got elected.
Historically, we've had one of the weakest governors in the country, and it's because of our history. Republican or Democrat, I have no problem with a weak governor, a weak executive branch, and a strong General Assembly because I can talk to my assembly members, be it in the House or the Senate. Look at how the relief money has been mishandled going back to 2017 with Matthew and Florence.
Andy.
Well,
Andy.
the lady in charge of it had to resign because she's mismanaged it
she admitted
so
her mismanagement.
badly.
Well, she did, at
did
a
resign.
committee meeting.
Why
she
would
did.
we invest in an executive who is so unaccountable? North Carolina's always had a distrust of the executive branch predating the revolution. This is more of the same. Keep it close to the people. This is not a partisan push. It's in North Carolinians' blood to keep things close to the people. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
Well, I'm sure everybody gets up every morning at the kitchen table and says, man, we need to take some of those powers away from the governor. We need to move that state.
They
board
do every
election
time
to
the
the
governor
state-
takes power away from
to the-
them and
to the
closes
state
down
auditor.
schools.
all good night. You
For
ain't gonna ever
a
get
year.
over that, are you?
No?
Here's the thing of it, though. There has to be some kind of built-in steps between these two, so they're not one just overshadows the other one. The state board of election was fine the way it was. It was that way under Republican governors and Democrat governors, and it worked.
Haven't we seen in the way they've handled the day since this election, the State Board of Elections is not fine. It has issues.
Well, what doesn't it's got human beings in it?
Well,
I mean, anytime you deal with something in elections, I mean, there's not this vast conspiracy. There are things that should be changed, maybe. I've never been a fan of mail-in ballots because I don't trust the post office. I mean, but there's things that I'm concerned about too, and that being one of them. We can agree on that one. But, I mean, but overall, I just have a problem with stripping the executive branch of everything and giving it to just another branch of government, just because it's a
you're not-
Democrat or Republican.
It's not everything.
you're not a very good Baptist. Baptists believe in the plurality of all leadership.
Oh, my goodness.
Think about it. How's the Baptist church organized?
Not very well. I think that's why I'm a Democrat Baptist. I mean,
So-
I'm used to it.
There was a reason that the King of England called the American Revolution a Presbyterian revolt, because they didn't believe in an executive authority. They didn't believe in a king.
Right.
And what we have in these states is and we have in the United States is we have the balance of that tried to be found so that those who believed in the more top-down, like the Episcopalians, Lutherans, and Roman Catholics,
And
would be
Democrats.
balanced by the Presbyterians and the Baptists. But anyway, I just want to talk about a little more recent history than that.
All right.
Does anybody remember what happened in 1988 at the lieutenant governor level in North Carolina?
I do.
Jim Gardner was elected the first Republican lieutenant governor. And Betsy, tell me, what did the Democratic legislature do to his power?
They probably limited it.
They took it
They
away.
stripped it.
This is
Well-
not a Democrat-Republican thing. This is whoever's got the power is going to take it.
Well, but here's the thing, and the reason why, let's go back to 88. And the main reason, and Wes will tell you this too, where your office is located is tantamount to what kind of power you really have in that place sometimes.
Well, mine wasn't.
Well, you wouldn't
I
very
had a pretty
powerful.
sweet office,
Oh,
but I
did
had
you?
no power.
Well,
Yeah,
well, you gotta have something. That's a consolation prize, I guess.
yeah, it was.
You had a
And
nice
you can
way
thank
to
Debbie
be.
for that.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
here it goes, though, that they did not want to have Lieutenant Governor controlling office space, which they did. I remember, Governor Hunt talking about how he hated doing that because they worried to death that when he was Lieutenant Governor. So, I mean,
Oh,
that's what drove a lot
The
of that.
silly over offices is amazing,
Well, but it's how
but that's inside politics, and
Well,
well, but that is a big
it has
deal.
nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Well, it
The
does.
point is do we vest power in the executive branch or in the people? And Republicans generally believe we invest it in the people, which is best done through the General Assembly, the people closest to us that we can relate to, not some executive in faraway Raleigh or faraway Washington. It's in the people.
Well,
And I think that's
let me
inherently
make one other
American.
point on this,
all right,
Randy.
look at mine. I'll come back to you,
The
Betsy.
move still leaves this, I'm talking about the legalities and the constitutional issues. This leaves it in the Council of State, in the executive branch, if the auditor appoints the boards of elections. So that destroys the argument that has been argued in the state Supreme Court about you're removing it from the executive to the legislative and upsetting the balance of power that the Constitution looks for. This takes it from the governor, but it leaves it at the auditor. Now, in a lot of states, the Secretary of State is over elections, but they're not here. Obviously, that wasn't an option because the Secretary of State's a Democrat. But,
Fancy that.
but,
And just like the governor's a
Though
Democrat.
a pretty good Democrat.
she-
I think you and I will
Elaine-
both admit that.
I like Elaine a lot. I don't think she's done anything but a good job as Secretary of State. She does still have to sign off on some of this stuff
She
relating to
does.
elections.
She's
as
on
Secretary of
mine,
She's
State.
over the
all three of
electoral
mine.
college.
But that's the legal question I see it's going to rise. Because I think we all assume Cooper's going to veto the bill,
Yes.
Yeah.
and then it's going to come. They're going to come back December 2nd and maybe one
Override.
other date and override them,
Yep.
and then it's going to immediately be litigated. I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
all know that.
And remember, on March the 3rd of this year, three-judge panel struck down where this recent grab by the General
Which is on
Assembly
appeal.
of the governor's power struck it down.
Which is
It's
on
being
appeal, and are you
unconstitutional.
sure that the state Supreme Court will agree with that three-judge panel?
Well, no, it's probably not, because it's more
Well,
partisan now. But I'm still, and you talk about being in the hands of the people, Wes. Would you say that if the people were controlled almost totally by the Democrats in the General Assembly?
I'm
No.
all, yeah,
you
absolutely I
wouldn't.
would.
No, you wouldn't.
All right, everybody mark that tape one of these days. And we may not see it in our lifetime, but it will swing back. It always does. All right, Wes, since you're up on your soapbox real strong today, I'll just start with you on this next question, because it just seems like right up your alley. It seemed this week, Wall Street Journal had a really interesting article, in depth, I thought, about the ongoing fracturing of our country. There are now several red rural areas in other states that want to succeed from where the major blue cities, which are controlled by Democrats, and form new states. Are we heading for more unrest after this election? I thought things were kind of calm, but now you got whole areas wanting to succeed from each other?
Well, Andy, unlike you rich Democrats, I don't get or read the Wall Street Journal and could not read the article, but thank you.
I attached it to it where you could look at it.
Well, but you have to subscribe to get to
No,
it.
no,
so-
I want to give.
I attached it to the email so you could look at it. 'Cause
Well,
I knew
he attached
you
it
were
as a
bored and couldn't
PDF.
afford it. so.
Okay, thank you. This goes back to the very beginnings of our nation. This is Hamilton versus Jefferson, the farm versus the bank. I think today many, forgive me Betsy and Andy, but Democrats have a false sense of democracy in our founding. We are not a democracy, we're a republic for these reasons.
We are a Democrat Republic,
We
yes.
are.
Look at the Supreme Court. The nation's founding, the president is elected by the Electoral College, which was intended to be a deliberative board. The Senate was selected by state legislatures.
Let's be real straight about it. What it was a smoke-filled room with a bunch of guys sitting around smoking cigars, trying to put somebody in there they can control usually.
The point is, there was nothing little d democratic about it. It was a republic where we chose representatives who picked a president, who picked who was on the Supreme Court by way of the Senate, through our representatives. The system was set up to protect the minority, to protect a philosophy, to protect natural rights. And so, and I think this goes directly to your question. We've got areas of states, and I think there are three, Texas, Idaho, Oregon, Illinois, so maybe four, that are looking at secession. Two of our founding fathers wrote articles of secession for their states, Adams and Jefferson. The states are independent and join the nation by choice, therefore they should be able to leave by choice. Whether or not it's a good idea today, I don't know, but you're going to see more and more of this as we have, go back to the first question, an executive branch take more and more authority over the people. I think it comes back to the people.
Well, folks, we're going to have to take a break, and we'll come back and see what Betsy, I'm sure she's got a rebuttal coming big time on this one. We'll be right back with the second half of Political Smackdown.
Killing, people dying, children hurt, and you hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach, and would you turn the other cheek?
How you doing today, ma'am?
Father, help us and some guidance from above. These people got me questioning. Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love?
Hi, I'm Deb Harden, host of For Your Information. The goal of our show is to educate and entertain you about all things pets throughout Cleveland County. We have various guests joining me each month to talk about dogs, cats, pigs, whatever kind of pet you can think of. Also each month, we will be joined by some furry friends looking for their forever homes. For Your Information each month right here on C19 TV and online at www.c19.tv.
Can afford the journal.
Well, I happen to like the Wall Street Journal. Thank you very much. Betsy, straighten him out, please.
Well, Wes, thank you for that lesson in American history. I think you missed something about the Electoral College, because one of the reasons it was set up is because the people that would be in the Electoral College would be more educated than the common ordinary citizen. Remember, John Adams was very afraid of the citizenry.
So you're an elitist.
Because of the ignorance. I'm just stating the fact. Yeah. That's what it was. And now that we have educated populace, we really don't need the Electoral College. That's another question. But anyway, back to this group about people that live in the rural areas that have a big city in their state, like Chicago is in Illinois, or maybe San Francisco and Los Angeles in California, want to readjust the lines of the state. I just don't know how much that's going to fly, because you have to have permission from the state legislature in order to even go after being a separate state. And it's like, will they do that? If, the Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia have been trying to be the first 51st state for years, and they haven't done it. Now, a handful of times it's happened, like when Kentucky separated from Virginia, or maybe Maine from Massachusetts.
But we did go from 13 to 50.
That's true, but it's not as much, it's all about the people in the rural areas of these states say that there's too much Democratic control, or control by which parties in where the city is voting overwhelmingly one way and they want another. And it's a part of being an American that you want, you have a right to your own opinion. But I don't see the separate states being formed because of this. I think it'll have to be, now of course with this, with this president we're going to have next month or in January, and maybe ever who comes into Congress, we'll see, because the Congress has to okay it too. So Wes, even though, thank you again for the history lesson, but I just don't see this as being something that'll be done in the next few years.
Oh, I agree. It's not going to happen.
Mike?
Well, it is an interesting part of American history, the way we were developed, and this shows the frustration. If y'all look at an election map, every election, 90% of America's geographical area is red, and
Yep.
10% or so is blue, and so you've got the great urban divide. And the liberals, for some reason, all live in the big cities now, and that's been the case. And that, to me, more today than ever before, we need the Electoral College, because a part of its design was to protect the small states from the big states.
Right.
That was a part of the purpose of it. And if we didn't have the Electoral College, do you think we'd have seen them in North Carolina all that time? Or especially would we have seen them in Nevada with only 6 electoral votes, meaning they have very low population?
Yep.
They'd have been in Illinois, New York, Florida, Texas mostly. That'd have been where the big numbers were. So that's why we get to see them at the college. But I think it's interesting, if you look at these maps Andy sent us, you can't really tell it, but you know, that's Illinois, and there's one little bitty place where Cook County is in Chicago. That would be a state, and it would be, gosh, 2% if at most of the land area of Illinois in that proposal, Andy. And California is about as bad. When you look at California, you just got the area around Sacramento, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and then the rest of it votes red, but the population is in those urban centers. So that's what's creating. The one in Idaho, they want to take part of the state of Washington and call it Greater Idaho, and if you don't know it, the western half of the state of Washington is conservative and less populated. It's over around Seattle where all the people live, and white votes Democrat. So they're trying to get more senators that would be they elected instead of the Democrats. You'd wind up with about the same thing in the House probably, but it's not going to happen. It's interesting to think, and I understand the frustration. I'd hate to live in one of these red states with a blue city that dominated.
But Andy, before you wrap this one up, I'm going to take it back. This is a 250-year-old argument that goes back to Hamilton and Jefferson. And we can't ignore the fact that this is ongoing. It's not changed. It's not Republican Democrat. It's
rural and
Hamiltonian versus Jeffersonian. This exists in America and will continue to, no matter how we may choose to divide states.
I still think we all get college credit for some of this stuff that Wes brings up.
I wish Mr. Harris were here because he would rebuff some of this, I'm sure. But
I would. All right, let's go on to the next question. Mike, this is for you, my friend.
I hear you.
We've got something I didn't think would ever happen. It seems that the host of Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski, and Joe Scarborough, are trying to make amends with President-elect Trump. They made a trip down to Mar-a-Lago this past week and actually got along pretty good, it seems, from what we understand. That they've at least come to the realization that just being anti-Trump is not going to get you very far after an election that was so overwhelming. So they said, well, he is president-elect. Let's see if we can open a lot of communication and talk to it. And that's pretty much what they did.
Andy, I really never knew that Joe and Mika wanted so badly to be good friends with a fascist, a misogynist, a narcissist, and Hitler himself. How in the world did they have such a great awakening?
Well, I guess they just felt like he needed a friend. I guess. I don't
they had
know.
to sell advertising, Mike.
I actually think that this is probably okay if he wanted to meet him. Had my name been Donald J. Trump, I believe I'd have said, I'll talk to y'all in due course. Y'all been trying to cut my throat for the last 7 years. I just think I'll just let you just kind of be on hold. I'll let you know when I get to you. I believe that's the way I'd have handled it.
That ain't what you told me.
I'm not going to say it just like I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wes,
Let me just finish this part. Here's what's going on at MSNBC. This is after the election. Total viewers the week of 11/11, 24, and that was already low, but total viewers for Fox, 3 million almost, MSNBC, 600,000, CNN, less than 500,000, and their ratings are in the disaster zone, and people aren't watching them. And the morning that they did this on Monday and told about that trip, in the second hour after they told about it in the first, their viewership went way down, and it was down again Tuesday. People on the left and the right didn't like it. Some of their left-wing people criticized them for doing it.
Oh, it was pretty bad.
And so, I don't know. It's interesting they did it. And don't forget, in 2015 and 16, after he walked down the escalator, they were very friendly to him, had him on their show and talked to him all the time.
He was on it every week.
And back when he was the rich New York businessman that everybody wanted to go to his parties, they were kind to him.
And he said some terrible things about Mika and Joe when they made the visit to visit him. I mean, terrible things. And that's sort of cut the friendship. So we'll just see, Andy, because they're newscasters.
That's it. Wes?
They're not newscasters.
Oh, now, we were not going to get into that speech.
They're not newscasters. They are
Opinion shows.
opinion shows.
Opinion shows.
Period.
Anyway,
But Andy, I think this is, writing on the wall. You've been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Mika and Joe are trying to stay relevant in today's politics. That's why they went down there. Good for them. I have no problem with that. Good for Trump for allowing that. But these opinion shows were way wrong, and they've been found wanting.
Is it true they went down there and kissed his feet?
I don't know, but they washed them. There's no
Kiss the
doubt about
ring.
that.
I'm not
All right.
even going
Oh,
to
me.
answer that, because I got a pretty good idea of what they probably did kiss. Anyway,
Yeah, there was plenty of that going on.
all right, let's go to the lightning round. Mike, what you got?
Well, today's the 61st anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. November 22nd, 1963. There they are in Dallas in the motorcade just before the shots rang out from the book building. And then there's a picture that was taken by, I guess, a member of the public. And that is the minute Jackie knows he's been shot. And there's those famous now grassy knoll. This was a sad day in American history, and it marked really in 1963 the beginning of one of the most tumultuous decades in American history politically, ending in other assassinations. I'm glad those days are not here now. And God rest his soul, and may this never happen again in America.
Amen to that. Wes, what you
And,
got?
and that was today.
Today,
As we
the day
record
we're
on
taping,
Friday.
November 22nd. That's the 61st anniversary.
Well, this past Wednesday was Joe Biden's birthday, and 50 years in office, 20% of the entire nation's history, Joe Biden has been in a decision-making position. I'll leave it to you to determine his legacy. Meantime, Kamala, with over $1 billion in campaign money, can't pay her employees and owns over $20 million after paying Oprah Winfrey $2 million for a campaign appearance. And the Pentagon has failed over half its most recent audits. Andy, do you understand the problems with the deep state? This is why Trump won. Will he fix it? I doubt it, but he may help. But if we don't get this right, we're destined to become, like England, irrelevant in world affairs. We have to get back to our founding principles. And after 413 days, we still have Americans held hostage by Hamas.
Betsy?
I'm very glad that Allison Riggs, who's running for re-election to the state Supreme Court, has pulled ahead of her Republican opposition of 625 votes. And there will be a recount, but I hope Allison continues to win.
Yeah, we'll see. We hope. Well, I'm going to give a shout out to the gentleman from Shelby. He called me this, well, was it? Yesterday. He was going down Sulphur Springs Road, and he called me, tell me, he said, "You're right, we have a terrible litter problem on Sulphur Springs Road." Did you see that? Usually there's a bumper off a truck or something like that, but I didn't see one when I came through yesterday.
I saw one trash bag and a lot of trash strewn.
Well, that's because the grass cutters come through and cut up what was there, and it just went everywhere.
I was headed to Gaffney or Blacksburg, and I happened to go that way, and I thought, I see what Andy's talking about.
Well, I think it's a shame and disgrace, as pretty as this county is, that we can't respect our county anymore in God's creation. So, folks, if you take a chance, if you live down on that road, try to pick up just around your house. It would be helpful if everybody, like they do on my road, we all have a section that we take care of. And that keeps my part of Bettis Road pretty clean.
By the way, there's still quite a few trees that fell across Sulphur Springs Church Road laying on the side.
And you better not run off the road, or you're going to be all into the trees. Well, folks, that's all we got time for this week. Hope you've learned a little something. And we'll be back again next week with a new edition of Political Smackdown.